Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And away we do go. Man short, man down. Mackie traveling, so it is Judd, it is Declan, Purple Daily. We are going to, despite Phil's absence here, it's no problem at all, because I have for you, Declan, 5, and really 6 if you include a very special one, way too early 2025 Vikings offensive storylines. Now, I am going to have a defensive one as well, but it's not the time. Like, I'm not going to cram in 10 things. That's ridiculous. So we're going to start off on the offensive side of the ball. But before we do that, I want you to start us off as we continue to go through and thank all of the great sponsors of Purple Daily.
Yeah, shout out to Two Men in a Truck who made this move possible over for me. They came over on Saturday and made this process super simple. They were able to wrap things. They took care of my delicate items. They got them in the truck. They got them unpacked. Between getting to my house, packing up the house, unpacking the house, everything was just under 2 hours. So
look
what
at that
they
house
quote,
oh my God, it's huge.
I know, look at that. There I am right there. There's me 15 years ago as the same size with Vinny.
Oh, Vinny
There's
looks
Vinny.
great.
Oh my gosh. Go to twomeninatruck.com to make that moving process a lot simpler. What they quote is what you pay. No hidden fees, no service charges. twomeninatruck.com to learn more.
It looks like a nice house.
Yeah,
I'm sure yours is nice too.
No,
No,
it's fine. It's fine.
No offense to your house.
Yeah,
Hey,
no, it's fine.
Hey, if your house is small, join the club. My house is small. I love my small house.
I'll do you a favor. I just won't invite you to my house since I know that would be
You're
the
too
preferred
far. Are
method.
you kidding with the construction on 94? There is no way I would. I mean, all due respect to you and your lovely wife, I ain't coming to your house. 94? Terrible. Don't even want to start on it. Don't even want to talk about it.
All right, so Judd, you have
I
5
do.
offensive observations plus a bonus observation on the
Yes, sir.
special teams, correct?
It's on the special. It's on the offensive ones are going to lead into the punt return. It's going to be on the punt return because the punt returner we do not know yet. Brandon Powell is gone.
Right, yeah.
And I know that he caused you a lot of consternation. I actually didn't mind him because he caught the ball.
Oh, God, no.
You were going crazy every single game. But that's going to be the 6th one because let's start off with this. Let's start off with the 2025 Vikings offensive way too early storylines with the wide receiver position, okay? So the aforementioned Brandon Powell is gone. Trent Sherfield Sr., who was very good on special teams, that's actually a loss. He is gone, okay?
I don't get blocker.
Yeah, no, the dude was like he didn't catch a lot of passes, but he was the ideal 5th or 6th guy because he blocked, really good on special teams. So out of training camp last summer, the Vikings kept 6 receivers. So I would imagine that that's going to be the same. If you do the math, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, and Ty Felton, who was just drafted from Maryland, are locks. I think they're all locks. Okay. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 2 spots left. 2 spots left that were occupied previously by Brandon Powell and Trent Sherfield Sr. Okay, here's one, I think. This is spitballing. The Vikings signed a guy by the name of Tim Jones, who had been with Jacksonville this offseason. Now, he, I think, is the Sherfield replacement. Special teams guy, if you check his stats, you're not going to be wowed. Like, there's really no stats. There's some, but not much. Right. But he is a special teams guy. Okay. So let's just say he replaces Sherfield, gets that job. It's a very important depth job. You're not supposed to be great. Mm-hmm. That leaves one spot. And I've got a couple of guys here. And tell me if you agree, disagree, think I'm missing someone, okay?
Okay.
The last spot, in my opinion, is going to be a battle between Rondale Moore, the former Purdue, Arizona Cardinal. I think he was with the Buccaneers, but hurt last season. And the other guy that I liked in training camp last year, and I think we talked about him, Lucky Jackson. So those are my 2 for 1 spot. Now I will say this. On the Rondale Moore one, before you say, hold on, Sports Dad, you're crazy. They signed him. He's going to make the team. I've seen him play. He killed the Vikings once. I will say Ty Felton's skill set is very much the same. So Ty Felton is going to make the team. So unless Moore really shines, I don't know that he's as big a slam dunk as we once assumed. So 6 spots I think 5 with Tim Jones are probably spoken for. So certainly 4, if not 5, spoken for. But I do think it's a interesting conversation. Who gets wide receiver spot number 6 on the 53?
So looking at Tim Jones here just for a second.
Yep.
So let's look at some run blocking. So he was in 24 plays where he was a run blocker last season in Jacksonville, according to PFF, by the way. I'm getting this from Pro Football Focus. Totally didn't steal Phil Mackey's login for future information.
No. You've got
when I
Drone.
needed this.
So
24 run blocking snaps. He had an overall grade of 35, but there was a couple games where he was poor, but he was above average in more than half his games. Like he was okay. He was an okay run blocker for the Tim Jones side of things, and maybe is your Trent Sherfield or special teams kind of ace blocking type of dude.
Yep.
I mean, if Rondale Moore is healthy, right? Like if he isn't,
Right.
I believe he's still in the recovery process.
Not ready for the start of training camp, according to what O'Connell said in March.
Yeah,
Probably
so
not prepared for the start.
that puts him behind the 8, and we know something that you've obviously covered years of practices and training camps and this type of stuff, but I think the thing we tend to forget about, whether you're a common football fan or you're a junkie that loves the training camp battles, is the days of you being behind the 8 ball with the reps. The longer you're out, the longer it takes you to get back inside that pecking order. It's not as simple as baseball, for example, where you might miss the start of spring training, but if you get your at-bats in over the last 2 weeks, you're going to be fine and make the team if you're an established player. Football's a completely different beast, man, and Rondale Moore's coming here completely blind. I think it'd be different if he was in the system maybe the year prior, but when you're coming in new and you're basically behind it, it's going to be tough for him to make it if I'd like to see him healthy because he is a dynamic player and he's still young, but it'll be tougher, I think, for him to crack it if he's not healthy and on the field by like halfway through training camp.
Yeah, plus I don't know that his skill set is what they are truly going to want from like positions 5 and 6, because that's like special teams blocking, and if Moore can return, that's great. But I just look at Teifelt and what he's going to bring, and it feels like he is a cheaper, younger, healthier for sure Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
So, but keep in mind too, when they're going through, especially Dex, those last couple of spots, they are reserved for guys who have special skill sets, not necessarily just hey, I can catch the ball or I'm fast. The other thing that's really intriguing about this whole position group is this: Keenan McCardell is an outstanding position coach with very exacting and high standards. So, like, this is no screwing around here. Just because you think that you're good, and I don't know, I'm not talking about Moore in particular here. I'm just saying, if you come here and think that you're hot stuff, McCardell's going to work you and work you and work you and not tolerate that. So it is a very hard position group to crack.
By the way, put some respect on my guy Tim Jones' name. 96 run blocking plays last year. Like he was involved.
Oh, okay.
So much more than I was looking at zone, which zone and gap, two different types of schemes right there, baby.
Once you get that information, man, you got to be able to read it. Phil reads that stuff on the fly. Very impressive.
I know.
It takes me a while to my eyes to focus in the right place.
So we're in the same boat there.
So
okay.
So he could be though the special teams.
Yeah, I think he's. I think he has penciled in as maybe Trent Sherfield replacement guy.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Which again,
Tim Jones. Yeah.
Might sound funny, but it's incredibly important.
No, it's very important.
Okay. Way too early. Talking point number 2 on the offense. This is going to be just to put context here. This is an off-season, potentially into training camp discussion that hopefully goes away, but it's worth broaching. Left tackle in the offseason. And I know that sounds funny, but the Vikings are going to conduct a rookie camp on Friday. And then, in the next few weeks, they're going to get on the field for OTAs. The mini camp comes up in June. And Christian Darrisaw is coming off an ACL, and I believe, if I'm correct about this, MCL knee injury. And they're not going, nor should they rush that one bit, okay? Left tackle. So the question is, who gets the reps there? Because I am almost positive that you're not going to see Darrisaw until training camp. And I don't know that you're going to see him on day 1.
Sure.
You also have to be prepared, knock on wood, but if something goes wrong, guys have reoccurring problems sometimes, that you are prepared at left tackle. So your options are this. The Vikings, again, it was not a sexy signing. But in March, they signed a guy who's a swing tackle by the name of Justin School, originally drafted by the 49ers, played for Tampa Bay. He saw extensive action in 4 games at right tackle with the Buccaneers and 2 at left tackle in 2024. The other option, I think, is Blake Brandel, who played left guard, but he is not going to be, he will no longer be the left guard. And so I think those are your 2 options. But, don't sleep on the fact that having a Darrisaw replacement, especially after what we saw against the Rams, Darrisaw gets hurt. The Vikings have to trade for a left tackle, and he is now gone in Houston. So my second storyline is left tackle in the offseason to see what the preparation is in case Darrisaw suffers a setback once he does return.
So this is where, when we talked about, guys like Rondell Moore needing every rep he can get, if Darrisaw, they're going to be cautious with this one to the point where he might not, get much run in practice at all. But if he's progressing and he's healthy by the time training camp breaks and we're getting closer to week 1, you can be okay with sliding Christian Darrisaw, obviously, into his devoted left tackle position because if healthy, he's one of the best at his position and what he does. So that's fine. But I think even like looking at all the guard options that they have, like Donovan Jackson, for example, like he's played tackle, he's played some guard. Where do they want to start him, right? Because I don't think they want to overwhelm that kid by flip-flopping.
He's their left guard.
You think? Okay.
Yeah, they will not. So I think at the end of the day, I think the story last year was the fact that he was willing to move to left tackle and played well, impressed teams, but nobody said we're going to convert you to a left tackle full time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think from right to left, O'Neal at right tackle is set. And then you'll have Will Fries at right guard, Ryan Kelly at center, Donovan Jackson at right guard, and hopefully week 1 Christian Darrisaw at left tackle. But if the Vikings, especially with this training staff and coaching staff, is any indication, I don't think you will see Christian Darrisaw doing anything but on-field rehab work until training camp. And he might do that the first couple weeks of camp too, because you're right. It's more important that he's healthy. Like, there's nothing he's going to learn where it's going to be like, oh man, I didn't know this. And yes, the reps are nice, but this team has never taken any chances, and they're not going to start now. So I do think that you are going to get a long look at what the Vikings depth chart wise think is their backup left tackle, and the premium on that becomes more important because of what did happen with Darrisaw last season.
Yeah, you got to make sure your 2 pillars in O'Neal and Darrisaw are sound. That's one of the best combos in the NFL, and as we know, big trees fall hard. So you can't certainly rush those guys. It's Justin School, right? Is that the pronunciation?
Yep, it's pronounced,
like school?
It's not spelled school. It's pronounced school.
Yeah. So, yeah, at times last year was okay in pass protection, kind of same in run blocking. A depth guy, and unfortunately, we know how this works. There's offensive line injuries are going to happen.
Yep.
Probably a serviceable backup, but just like any other position in the NFL, the moment your starter goes down, you're kind of crossing your fingers that the backup can replace him and replace him admirably, which I don't think School can do.
No, but I think the goal with that signing is the Vikings want to avoid, and I don't blame them, having to, if a guy goes down, a tackle, and I'm not saying for an extended period, but let's say O'Neal hurts his ankle or something. I think you could plug School in for a couple of games. And I don't know that the Vikings thought that they had that flexibility. They definitely didn't have great depth. It was okay. Quessenberry, I believe, came into the Rams game to replace Darrisaw, but he was a pure backup. And then there was the initial talk about, well, can Brandel go play left tackle where he had played previously? And that in that scenario, Reisner would have played left guard. Ingram would have stayed put at right guard. None of that was attractive. And I think that the trade that the Vikings did make was fine, but you'd prefer just to have some depth there. If Darrisaw goes down for a season, that's a big ask. I do think, though, now that the Vikings are set at the left guard position, Brandel will get a look-see at least, back as a swing guy, and I would not be surprised if he is at least considered a backup. It might be third string at the tackle positions.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, more depth, the better. And then you don't have to hopefully. I mean, Cam Robinson ended up playing okay. I think people kind of
till
look
the
at
end.
that. Yeah, till the end it got bad.
Yeah.
But you need as many options there as possible. So I like it. Okay.
All right.
Couple storylines there. I dig it.
Exactly right. And we are going to move on to a third one that also involves the offensive line. But first of all, Dex, I got a recommendation for the entire line. Okay. Because those guys like to eat, right? They got to keep their weight on. They love to eat. They have what we like to call hearty appetites. And may I suggest that if that is the case, that they stop at the Butcher in the Boar, located in the North Loop. Some exciting news. The massive new patio is open now. We're talking about a beer garden. We're talking about great food. It's absolutely a perfect place. And this week is the prime example because it's been gorgeous out for outdoor dining or perhaps a drink before a Twins game. That's right. You're going to a Twins game, you and some friends perhaps. Again, North Loop, Butcher and the Boar, Southern style hospitality, a great, fantastic cocktail list, and the house smoked meats, hand cut steaks, and fresh seafood all are fantastic. Great enough for an offensive line. And if you just want to drink before a Twins game, check out that patio to Butcher and the Boar. We appreciate their support.
Yeah, also, maybe that golf game. Maybe those offensive linemen who are sending drives, just piping them down the fairway, maybe just driving onto the green. I would do that at the Meadows at Mystic Lake, golfthemeadows.com to book that tee time. Weather's finally gorgeous here, 70s, 80s. I'm going to San Diego this week, and I think it actually might be warmer here than it is in San Diego. So go figure how that works. But get your tee times in. Go to golfthemeadows.com to book the tee time. Tell them Purple Daily sent you. Send us a selfie from a tee box. Golfthemeadows.com to secure that tee time.
Some golf there for you?
I don't think so.
You're not taking the clubs?
Not taking the clubs. My wife's in a wedding.
Okay.
So I'm along for the ride. Which going to San Diego, nothing wrong with that.
No, great town, great time. All right, the third way too early offensive storyline is this one because we talked about this guy for a 6th round pick last year. We talked about him a lot as far as his progress. Where does 2024 6th round choice Walter Rouse work? Offensive lineman. Now he was drafted. He was drafted as a tackle, but if you recall, before the free agent frenzy, where the Vikings went crazy and signed guys, and then drafted a left guard in the 1st round, there was talk that he was working at guard and that he might get a chance there. I think this is going to be an intriguing one because I think they like him. Now, was he prepared to start immediately at guard? Obviously not. And by the way, that's fine. I'd much prefer that he be developed than forced in to play. But Rouse is a guy who, he's a big dude. He's got the body of tackle a little bit, but more and more, Dex, and this to me is extremely interesting because it used to be you had your guards and tackles. Sometimes you had swing guys, but they were sort of like old school relief pitchers in baseball. It's like, well, he was a failed starter, so he might become a guard. Well, now it's flexibility, and players have that flexibility to play tackle or guard. But Rouse as a guard does intrigue me. Inside, he intrigues me. There's not a spot for him right now, but I'm not going to be surprised if he does end up being transitioned from a backup tackle on the depth chart to a backup guard. And I think he might have a future because the other thing is too, and you love this regarding offensive linemen, he's a sharp guy, like he's really smart. So Walter Rouse, where he works in the upcoming camps, to me, is going to be intriguing because I think he might be on track to get a job at some point, ideally not 2025. But he has a skill set I think that the Vikings still do like.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know he was a 6th round pick, but they want to be able to also develop their own guys. This is, and I know our guys, Jeremiah Searles, Alex Boone, have talked about this. Those are probably, I know they like to say they are, and they probably are right. Some of the smartest guys in the room are offensive linemen, right?
True.
And learning that terms, like Josh School, for example, is once again, Justin School is once again behind the 8 ball in terms of learning this entire system. That's the one thing I'm harping on, especially on today's episode, but just that I always forget about, just as a football fan, of this. It's probably the hardest sport there is to walk in off the street or be acquired at the trade deadline. I know the NFL is doing better at making that more active. It is not as simple as swapping jerseys for a bat and stepping in and hitting third for the Yankees, after playing for Baltimore the night before, right? This is a completely different beast. So in Rouse's case, someone who is already familiar with KOC, a year into the system, knows terminology, he has a leg up to, win a job over someone like School or win a job of pecking order-wise of we trust Rouse more because we know him, we've developed, and we've cultivated him. So those type of things, yes, I know Judd will be, he'll have the phone out for training camp, so we capture the videos for the talk.
We'll get a lot of video. No
ready
question
to rock.
about it.
So I'm very excited to see where he falls. But yeah, having the guy in the system makes understanding that position that much easier.
Yeah, and I would not be shocked if he actually ends up as a backup guard. I do think, in School's defense, being a veteran, I do think the training camp ramp up and you've got the summer to learn it helps a ton. But Rouse, I could see being a backup guard. And, unfortunately, keep in mind, Will Fries broke his leg last year. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Keeping an offensive line intact is very difficult. I've not gone back and looked at 2024, but I'm willing to bet the majority of lines had, if nothing else, guys miss a game here, miss a game there. So the depth is paramount.
Well, and without completely, again, doing research on this, Philadelphia, right? Were they healthy all year? I think they were.
Well, that's a good question, because they definitely had guys banged up. The second question off that is pain tolerance, because these guys are so tough.
No one's healthy.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're going to you have to assume, hopefully not like Darrisaw, worst case, but you have to assume that guys are going to miss games, and so the depth becomes incredibly important. I don't know that I would say that the Vikings had great depth. They didn't in 2024. So while they have gone about rebuilding the line for the coming season, I think one thing we probably slept on is they are also trying to build up more depth there, which could become incredibly important. Because again, if a guy gets hurt, you do not want to feel like you're forced to go out and trade a 4th-round pick or a 3rd-round pick. That's not ideal. So yeah, Walter Rouse, I could see being a guard in a backup guard in 2025. Next one. We talked about this a little bit on Purple Daily on Monday as well. And that's going to be very intriguing. Who is QB2? Now, I'm assuming it's Sam Howell. They picked him up in a trade. They didn't really give up much there, but he's got experience. He started a season. It didn't go well for the Commanders. Obviously, that franchise was a complete dumpster fire. The team likes Brett Rippon, and you do have to factor in, and I do not think this is QB2. I think it would be surprising if he made the roster, but you have to leave the door open. Max Brosmer, the former Gopher, was paid pretty well to sign here as a UDFA.
Right.
But going into the offseason workouts, I think it'll be interesting to see the reps between Howell and Rippon, because as I said on the Monday show, I'm assuming it's Howell because of past experience and stuff. But O'Connell works on, he is a trigonometry professor of quarterback play. I'm just me trying to make assumptions. So QB2, if you were to sit here right now, Dex, and map it out, you would obviously say McCarthy, Howell, Rippon, Brosmer. I think it'll be interesting to monitor that, though, to make sure that that's the case. And then when training camp starts, the first team reps are going to go to McCarthy. How are the second team reps split up? And does Rippon get more than we expect? I'm just throwing it out there as a way too early storyline that I think is at least worth watching.
Yeah. I think we're all just assuming, and I'm assuming, by the way, that Howell gets this job. Howell has had the opportunities that Rippon hasn't. He's been a starter before. That 2023 year with Washington, there were some highlights for him. And there were also some games, like against the Buffalo Bills, where he threw 4 picks on 29 passes and was 6 of 22 in another start against the Jets and took a bunch of sacks. So there's something there. There is something also to be said, though, about Brett Rippon learning and being around Kevin O'Connell in that quarterback room. I think KOC sees a lot of himself in those type of dudes that can still be knowledgeable and still provide great insight and whatnot and that type of stuff. So that's where we might be too quick on the assumption trigger that Howell is the backup to McCarthy. I think at the end of the day it is. And Rippon is probably a next pseudo coach, right? I mean, it feels like Brett Rippon is more likely to be an assistant or some type of coaching personnel person than he is being a viable quarterback in the NFL. I think that the former path is much more likely than the latter. So I think it's Howell, and KOC also signed off on the Howell deal, right? Like, he takes sacks, he throws picks, which I think the KOC he wouldn't like, but he sees something enough in his game where he says, no, this guy just needs some molding and some fixing, and it will be beneficial in the room.
The weird thing is, check out, again, that stat line from his year starting with the Commanders. Look at not just the picks, they're awful. Look at not just the sacks, they're also awful. Look at the pass attempts. How do you, they literally sent him out there to suffer a quarterback death. How do you do that to a guy?
There was, in 9 of his 17 starts in 2023, he threw at least 39 passes. 2 games where he threw 50 or more passes.
Yeah.
And 4 games where he threw 45 or more passes, which is, yes, you're playing from behind. There's some circumstances in there, but when you have 600 passing attempts and you've thrown the 21 interceptions, makes some sense to me. But yeah, I mean, they did ask him to do a lot, which probably wasn't fair.
No. And with that team at that time, definitely not. But yeah, so I think it's going to be Howell, Rippon, Brosmer, but I'm curious. I'm curious about the backup. All right. The fifth talking point, the fifth and final offensive talking point, because I do have the bonus special teams one on punt returns, is this. Running back 3. Is it Ty Chandler? In what was a deep quarterback or a deep running back class, the Vikings did not draft one, which I think surprised folks. I think that there was an assumption that they might draft one. So Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, obtained in a March trade with San Francisco, are going to, I think it's fair to say, share the workload. I mean, I think Jordan's going to be the red zone guy that pounds the rock. Aaron Jones, probably a better pass catcher. He can block as well.
Yeah.
Not that Mason can't, but I think that I think it's going to be a good yin and yang of how those guys play off each other. Now on Ty Chandler, I don't think Kevin O'Connell as a running back has ever been thrilled about him. Last year, his carries, his rushing attempts decreased by 46. Okay. Now the one thing that he has done, I can't say well because it's such a small job now, but the one thing that he has done is kick returns. But there's an interesting twist there. And this is going to depend on this guy's playing time. Isaiah Rodgers return kicks now he's the new cornerback for the Vikings. He very well, I think, is going to start. So there might be a point in time at which they decide, you know what, you can't be a starting cornerback and returning kicks constantly. So that might be a curveball there. But anyway, with the situation, because I thought if the Vikings draft a back, Ty Chandler's gone for sure, right, Dex? Well, they didn't. They do have other guys on the depth chart. I don't know that they are huge threats. So is there a running back to come? Is someone going to unseat Chandler? Is Ty Chandler going to be running back 3?
I would bet no. If I was placing a wager on this, is Ty Chandler on the 53-man roster for week 1 to start the season? I would say no. I bet it's either Cam Akers coming back for the 9th time.
Just don't have to trade for him. Just make sure you sign him this time, okay?
Right. Myles Gaskin even fell into this bin a couple times a few years ago too. I think it's someone else. This feels like with Mason and Jones for the first time in a while an actual 55-45, 50-50 split, right? I don't know who will get more. And it's probably situational. You know, what they've done in the past with when it's been Jones or Madison or even Dalvin Cook near the end, it feels like the trend, right, is 2 series of the starting running back getting run. The first 2 series, he will play the majority of the snaps.
That was it last year, yeah.
And then the 3rd series of the offense is always the backup running back getting the bulk of the snaps to give the starting running back a breather, right? So and this is something for you to probably also watch. where does Mason fit? Is Mason in short yardage and also like red zone situations? But Aaron Jones can also catch the ball a little bit. I'm very intrigued. I know where you brought up who's RB3. It's a valid question. But also, what is the workload look like, I think, for Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason?
I would expect it's going to be far different than what we saw with Jones getting the first 2 or 3 series a year ago, and then it became Akers, I think. I got to think it's going to be split by series, right? And to what you said, situational. Like if you're in especially the deep red zone, it's got to be Mason. So, but I would be very surprised if Jones becomes he starts and then gets a series and then potentially gets a third one and then Mason plays. Because Aaron Jones, he's a productive, I like him. He is productive, but he wore down something fierce. Why would you do that again? And Mason's basically built to take a pounding. So I'm with you on the 50-50. And then in certain situations, because if there's a pass catching opportunity, I think Jones plays. If there's a red zone opportunity, I think Mason plays. So it might skew a little bit there, but I'd be very surprised if it was split up like it was a year ago, just based on the fact that they know right now that if they're going to win in the playoffs, you got to keep at least Jones a little bit fresher than he was by December of this past season.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good. Mason is without a doubt the best back I think KOC has ever had to work with. I really do. He's younger. He's fresher. He provides, I think, a different little approach here. You need the age for sure. So they need to run the ball. And McCarthy, I don't want McCarthy to be throwing the 49 passes game that we just read from the Sam Howell game log. No. So this starts with 25 to 30 attempts going to your running backs weekly, right? Weekly. I know sometimes that's situational too. If fall behind, it's hard to run the ball. But 25 to 30 attempts better be the floor, right, of a normal day for the Vikings offense in 2025.
Amen. And I'm checking out the roster right now for the Vikings. There are 5 RBs on this thing: Chandler, Jones, Mason, Xavier Scott, who played college football, I believe, at Maine. He was on, I think, the Colts practice squad. He got signed, and then Trey Stewart, who's a rookie from Jacksonville State. He was signed. Okay. But, I mean, are one of those guys going to emerge? I don't know. I wonder if you're right. I wonder if Chandler does not stick, if the current RB3, or if the RB3 is not currently on the roster. Yeah. That might make more sense.
It does.
That might make more sense.
Hey, by the way, Standard Heating and Air, who are helping power the home. This house, I would not have signed off on this house where I commit to a 30-year mortgage if it wasn't for Standard Heating and Air coming out to make sure that furnace was in good shape and that HVAC and that air conditioning was in good shape. You can go to standardheating.com, especially now that it's a little warmer here in the Twin Cities. You want to make sure that AC is working. You don't want to wait for that hot June, July day to slap you across the face and that AC fails. Go get it looked at right now. In fact, it's the best time to do so. So go to standardheating.com. You can also join their Smart Club, which will give you priority bookings. In the event that you have an emergency or a situation where they need to come out a lot quicker than you need. Standardheating.com to beat the heat and make sure that HVAC and AC is working appropriately. And then, Judd, where do you like to have a couple of beers at?
Oh, there's only one place. A couple of beers right there with Sports Dad. It's not called a couple of beers, though. It's called Padres, and they are brewing fantastic beer. Why? How so? Because all they do is beer. They're not in the back room trying to come up with 87 different cocktail mixes and get cute about it. What they do is they do beer, and they do it extremely well. I've been telling you about the Red for quite some time. In fact, it's so popular now. Recently featured in the Star Tribune as a beer to try this summer. It is great, but I'm going to give you another beer that is perfect for the pontoon, for warm days. Patty's Premium Irish Lager is absolutely fantastic. It's light, it's easy to drink, and it tastes great. Find it throughout town in your favorite liquor stores or bars, or by checking out Padres Brewing, like Sports Dad does there. A couple of beers. In the old Land of Nod factory at the corner of Broadway and Central Avenues Northeast, Padres. They are, I'll tell you right now, atop the depth chart of Sports Dad's beer list. That's where they are.
All right, so you got one more, right?
My last thing for you. Yeah. So this is a bonus one. It's sort of an ode to you because punt returns. Brandon Powell drove you nuts. He didn't drive me nuts. I was fine with it. I've seen much worse, but he's not back, and he drove you crazy. Mm-hmm. So the question is, who is going to tamp down the anxiety that Declan felt during Vikings games when that ball would go up in the air, spiraling around? You got to be very careful. You got to make sure that you don't, like, the most important thing before you ever return it is to catch it, because sudden change can kill you. It's not like a kickoff. It's tougher to handle. Guys are bearing down on you. You got gunners on top of you. So who's going to take the job? I got some candidates for you, okay?
Okay.
Rondale Moore is one of them.
Yeah. Yep.
But again, he's not going to start camp healthy. It sounds like he sounds like he's going to be behind the 8 ball. Doesn't mean he can't do it, but I would not just grant him a position on the 53. I think it's going to take some work here. Okay. But anyway, Rondale Moore, Ty Felton. He has return speed. He doesn't have much experience there, but he's got the return speed. Now, I will tell you this. He did tear his ACL as a senior in high school while returning a punt.
Oh.
That's not good. He had limited kickoff return and punt return experience at Maryland. So he would be more of a project. Like, it could work there, but I don't see it being immediate. Now, the other one I mentioned from a kick return standpoint more so, though, Isaiah Rodgers, okay? So he only returned he's returned 3 punts in his entire career. None with the Eagles last season. He has returned, though, 69 kicks in his career for an average of 27.1 yards per return in 4 years. And where the kick thing is intriguing to me is they are incentivizing teams now because it's going to come out to the 35 to the 30.
Yeah.
So it's going to come out farther. They're incentivizing teams to want teams to return the ball to try to stop them. So, and there are landing spots where you could kick the ball where it's basically a must return. So Rodgers, I think his kickoff return, I think he will return kickoffs but it's got to be based on what they perceive to be too much playing time. Do they want that? Playing cornerback, returning kicks? I don't know there. The punt return, though, job, in other words, is wide open. Wide open. And I am very curious here, Dex, because I recently asked a football person, I said, what's the goal there? Like, do you want returns? Do you want, because I've always perceived, no, we want you to catch the ball, and then if you can return it, great. And I was told that's exactly it. You've got to be reliable. And I know that you couldn't stand it, but they perceived Brandon Powell to be reliable. So, like, you can't take a chance here. It can't be like, oh, we think Ty Felton, because he's really fast, is going to, and then a gunner hits him, ball loose, sudden change, red zone possession. So this is going to be a very intriguing battle as far as where they end up in the punt return business. You got to have one. They're not all Marcus Sherrills, but you got to have somebody that you trust with football possession.
You know, I think what really set me off with Powell was the Lambeau game, right? This year where he just completely lost it in the sun.
No, that was a
Naylor?
kickoff for Jalen. Yeah, he tried to catch the ball above his head looking into the sun.
Which was preposterous.
And muffed it, and it was a disaster, and the Packers scored a touchdown, and darn near came back and won a game that I think the Vikings led 28-0.
Yeah. But Powell by the end, man, there was some wobbliness. I did not feel good with it. I was holding my breath, waiting for that sucker to just, I'm going to sneak out of you here. I want a new punt returner. And by the way, number one, I'm not looking for a punt returner and necessarily he's going to house one. Because what? You get maybe two of those a year, maybe. You're lucky if you get one punt returner.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're lucky if you get one.
So first and foremost, I am totally good with a Bobby Wade back there I am there to fair catch that SOB. It's all good, dude. Don't try to run this back. Don't even try to get yourself in position where you're going to then take a negative play. First step is to be Bobby Wade. Second step is can you be Marcus Sherrills, who it kept him in the league.
Oh, he was the best I've seen for the Vikings.
Yeah. So those are my first two things. I'm excited to see who it could possibly be, and hopefully I will, You can maybe ask me after every Vikings game, where does Dex nervousness rank on the 6 punt returns today? Where was he on the nervous scale? But I'm ready for a new one.
Well, they better find the right one. They better find a guy that can catch the ball. And I don't know. I think this might be as open a punt competition as I can recall in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you ordinarily have a guy, and perhaps there is a receiver I'm missing or something. But anyway, so the bonus one, punt returns, TBA. Watch out for Isaiah Rodgers as a kick returner, at least potentially. And that's all I got for you.
All right, man. I like it. And then you have defensive ones we can probably drop on a later episode, maybe.
Oh, most definitely. Well, and I might have a whole slew of special teams ones.
Yeah.
Like this is a great time of year. Dex, this is the blank canvas. The blank canvas of football. And all Sports Dad is doing is painting up a storm.
Don't let Judd paint. Don't let Judd get a canvas. Little watercolor, little Bob Ross, little Pablo Picasso. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's
I don't think I can name another painter. I'm not good with painters.
Van Gogh?
Van Gogh. Okay,
Little
thank
Vincent
you.
Van Gogh for you?
Yep.
Anyway, we should
Probably stop.
Let's quit while we're way ahead as
That's
opposed
right.
to way behind.
Hey, write that down. Wednesday, though, coming up on Wednesday, I will be joining via satellite. We'll have a guest. We'll have AJ. We'll have Mackie from some hotel room, maybe not even in this country.
No.
We don't even know where he's going to be.
No, we don't.
So hopefully that goes off smooth. If not, Judd's going to make 9 write that down predictions for everyone else that wasn't on the show.
They'll all be wrong.
He'll just keep going. Hey, hit the like button, subscribe button, though, here on Purple Daily, where we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die.